Today I will be talking about by the way, my name is Ryan. This is my fourth stream, I guess. I'll be talking about what is Angular and how do you uh, how do you learn Angular from Angular docs. So let's see what is Angular from as a one who uses React Angular version 17. This is an archived version which will be helpful for me. What is Angular? Angular is a development platform built on TypeScript. As a platform, Angular includes a component-based framework for building scalable web applications, a collection of well-integrated libraries that cover a wide variety of features, including routing, form management, client-server model communication, and more. A suite of developer tools to help you develop, build, test, and update your code. Prerequisites: you need HTML, CSS, JavaScript concepts, JavaScript classes, TypeScript fundamentals, and TypeScript decorators. Tools also you need TypeScript and command line interface, CLI, Angular CLI. Components are fundamental building blocks for creating application in Angular. By leveraging components architecture, Angular aims to provide structure for organizing your project into manageable, well-organized parts with clear responsibility so that your code is maintainable and scalable. An Angular component can be identified by the component suffix like my custom name.component.ts and as the following: a decorator to define configuration options for things like a selector that defines what the tag name is when referring a component in template. A simple example of a to-do list application looks like this: to-do hyphen list hyphen item dot component dot ts at the red component versus standalone is true selector to-do list item template. You have the HTML code and styles. Same behavior. You could use include templates, HTML templates in the template file and .css files and styles. We'll look at it later. Every component has an HTML template that defines what the component renders onto the DOM. So similar to like how React has a render function which outputs the JSX file. Similarly, you have Angular doing this by templates. HTML templates can be defined as an inline template with TypeScript class or separate file with template URL properties. Rendering dynamic data, curly braces, you need to use curly braces. When you need to display dynamic content in a template, Angular uses double curly braces syntax in order to distinguish between static and dynamic content. Uh, Dynamic properties and attributes: when you need to dynamically set the values of attributes in an HTML element, the target property is wrapped in a square bracket. Dynamic property attribute disabled. Okay, when you need to dynamically set the attribute value of an attribute in an HTML, the target property is wrapped in square brackets. This binds the attribute with desired dynamic data by informing Angular that the declared value should be interpreted as a JavaScript like statement instead of a plain string is equal to has pending changes. So it will interpret it as follows. Event handling: you can bind event listeners by specifying event name in parentheses and invoking a method onto the right hand side of the equal sign. Like button till curly braces click equal to save changes dollar event. And you have styles. When you need to style a component, there are two options properties that you can configure inside of the component directory. Similar to component template, you can manage the component style in the same file as TypeScript classes. Component can optionally include a list of CSS styles that apply to that component of component's DOM. Directives: when building application, developers often need to extend on the behavior of an HTML element or an Angular directive. Conditional rendering: one of the most common scenarios that developer encounter is the desire to show or hide a content in a template. More like a ternary operator, I would say, in React or JavaScript. Similar to JavaScript, if control block built-in ngIf directive to control whether an element will render. If the expression returns a true t value, star ngIf has admin privileges. Rendering a list. The another common scenario is to render a list of items based on dynamic data. Similar to JavaScript's for loop, Angular provides another built-in directive called ng-for. The following code will render one li element for each item in the task list. So ingredients list, then you have li. It says star ng-for equal to let task of task list. Custom directives. When building in directives help to solve common problems that developers encounter, there are situations where developers require custom behavior that's specific to their application. In this case, Angular provides a way to use custom directives. For example, here custom directives are highlighting an element. Highlight directive private inject. Then you have yellow. Services. When you need to share logic between components, Angular allows you create a service which allows you to inject code into the component while managing it from a single source of truth. Angular services can be identified by service suffix my custom name.service.ts. Similar to defining a component, a service are comprised of the following: TypeScript decorated different configuration provided. If you want to call the service and recipient component, for example, here's what it looks like: organization, CLI, Angular CLI is recommended way to develop Angular applications and make some tasks trouble-free. Ng build compile a JavaScript application into an output directory. I think ngserve builds a service serves your application rebuilds the file changes. Ng generates or modifies files based on semantics. Ng will run test cases. Ng E2E builds a server on Angular application then runs end-to-end tests. Okay. Next steps will get started. Tutorial uses stackblex.com and for you to explore a working example of Angular without an installation requirement. We'll go tutorial and in-depth next time. Thank you. Thank you for streaming in and stream. Bye.